they promised I actually wouldn't be able to see you, so now I'm kind of freaking out. But I work down the street at the State Department, and yes, I resemble that remark. Here today, I'm going to talk to you about innovation. A couple of things first. My son Aaron is in the audience here, who first introduced me to TED Talks, so thank you very much. And secondly, I've been with the State Department a long time, more than 25 years. And in that time, some have accused me of looking too much, a little too much, like a diplomat. So if you don't mind, in that spirit, in order to loosen me up a little bit, I hope you won't mind if I decide to remove my jacket, okay? And my tie. My shoes. My pants. All right. Okay. Now I feel a whole lot better, and go Hawks. So innovation, what does innovation actually mean? It's really hard to figure out, and I've been doing this job for about a year and a half. Thank you very much. And it's hard for me to figure out because it's become such an overused word, really a buzzword in private industry and governments. Everywhere you look, there's innovation. And I swear, after a year and a half of hearing this, I'm kind of sick of it. So I'm going to give you a few examples just anyway. But here, innovation that excites. That's from Nissan, okay? 3M, innovation, all over the place. NEC, empowered by innovation. Daytel, innovation and excellence. Sound innovation, I have no idea what that is, but it looked like a neat graphic. SGI, innovation for results. But what does innovation actually mean? And so I decided, for the sake of simpleness, because I'm kind of simple-minded, that let's just go back to the basics and see what the dictionary has to say is the definition of innovation. So there it is, something newly introduced, such as a new method or device. Pretty straightforward, right? Let me give you a quick story about innovation from many, many years ago. I was working at the Boeing Company before I joined the Foreign Service, and there was a gentleman who won an award for his innovation. And his award was because of this. When he worked on the factory floor, and there's a lot of heavy machinery there, and in order for people who were walking around the aisles not to get hurt if there was ever an accident, the company put up this kind of 10-foot-high retaining fence or wall so that if something happened to fly off the machinery, it wouldn't hurt anybody. The problem that created was that for the people who worked also on that factory floor with him, they would have to walk all the way around this 10-foot-high wall in order to get to the bathroom. And his award for innovation was to ask that a door be put in the center of this wall, because he was able to analyze and figure out, by the time it took everybody to walk all the way around to get to the bathroom, if they just put a simple door there, it would increase productivity because people would be back and forth from the facility so much quicker, and productivity would go up. And I remember at the awards ceremony, he was getting the award, and he very humbly said, "I was just doing my duty." And of course I thought, he just said duty. So there we are, innovation. So you have innovation as a definition, but what do you actually need from innovation? What are the prerequisites to get innovation? Like from in your organization, in your government, in whatever organization or activity you're affiliated with. And I've, since again I'm simple-minded, have narrowed it down to 3 real things. And the first of these is support. Now, support can come from your colleagues, support can come from your organization, support can come from almost anywhere around you. But I think the support that's required here is a support that advocates innovation in the culture, and something that advocates for that type of risk tolerance and tolerance for failure. Failure I'll get to in a minute, but support is something that we get from all over the place. And some would even argue that you can't really have serious innovation without government or state support. That's not necessarily intuitive, because some people think the companies that are out there in the private sector that are willing to take those risks, those are really the companies that are going to be innovative, because they have, they are willing to tolerate risk and to tolerate failure, because that will produce profits for them later on. But what we see more and more in today's world is that there are heads of companies out there who are worried more about the annual report or about pleasing their stockholders than they are about long-term vision. And so you often see the role of government increased in innovation simply because they don't have that same profit motive. They have the R&D funds that private companies may envy. And so they're able actually to de-risk, to take away some of that risk from the private sector. So, support. The second thing, second prerequisite for innovation is collaboration. And I want to say that for me, this is something that's an absolutely indisputable truth. In order for true innovation to flourish, you have to have collaboration. And as a sort of a corollary to that, innovation itself is incremental. This is not a new or historic theory, I don't think. I haven't invented anything here. But I want to show you a few examples of how this has worked out practically. This is Mark Berton. He is a former Microsoft employee and an author and lecturer. And what he says is, it's fun to romanticize about big thoughts, but it's small insights coming together that actually produce the big ideas that we see today. This is Meg Wheatley, also an author and consultant, and what she says is that you find innovation when you go outside your comfort zone, when you collaborate with people who are experts in areas other than your area of expertise, and you get those insights and you work together and you create innovation. You may recognize this guy. Bill Gates himself says, software innovation, like almost any other kind of innovation, only comes when small groups of people get together to talk about their ideas, to talk to their customers, to get their feedback, and that's how you produce real innovation. Okay, nice quotes, but how about some real-life examples? This is the cotton gin. Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, right? Maybe. He invented a version of the cotton gin, but there were several other versions out there, actually, and his contribution to the technology, so to speak, was that he added these coarse wires instead of just having the roller there that helped separate the seed from the fabric inside. But there was someone else who actually filed a patent for a very similar device on the same day that he did. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, right? But there were other transmitters and receivers out there at the same time, other models of the same thing, and his contribution really was that he varied the current of electricity in order to take into account the variations in voice and in noise. That was his contribution. And in fact, there was a patent filed at the same time that he patented his invention, and what happened was the other guy lost the battle in patent court, so Bell got the credit for that. That's the telegraph, and you know Samuel Morse, the Morse code, he got credit for inventing the telegraph. The British Patent Office wouldn't even issue a patent on this because there were so many other competing models at the same time. They wouldn't even issue a patent. And this might be a little hard to decipher, but that's actually Thomas Edison's light bulb. And as everybody knows, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. And as everybody later finds out, Thomas Edison in no way invented the light bulb. There were incandescent bulbs before him. There were incandescent bulbs after him. What Thomas Edison did was find this rare species of bamboo that was a higher resistor to electricity than the carbon paper that they had been using. And so it brightened things up and burned longer than the carbon paper. And he was great at marketing and great at manufacturing, but did not invent the light bulb. So there were models before him, models after him, and now we see all those incandescent bulbs being phased out in any case. One more example. You know what this is? That's your original Mercedes-Benz right there. And this was, both the Dodge Company and the Mercedes Company were involved in the manufacturing of bicycles before they were involved with automobiles. So you add a third wheel, you have a trike, you add an engine, you have a car. So this is the original Benz Motorwagen from 1885. The point of all this is that, as I stated before, innovation is not just incremental, but it's collaborative. And today, we have so many opportunities for collaboration. It used to be that this sort of collaboration was purely competitive. You know, it was who would file the patent more quickly, who would make more money for their company more quickly. Nowadays, we have the opportunity to collaborate virtually, to leverage technology, and to reach out across time zone and across borders to create things that are really unique. You look at something like Procter & Gamble. They partnered with a little company that they found they could create potato chips in Pringles. It's called Pringles Prints, and they could create potato chips with jet-inked images on each individual chip. If you want them, you can look that up. And you have a company like Kimberly-Clark who collaborated with another small company, and what they were able to do was create this little self-adhesive sticker to sell with their sun care products that would turn color and warn you when you're in danger of being sunburned. Little things like that. Possibly the best known of these collaborations is the iPhone itself. When it was developed, of course, there were just a few applications that went along with it. And what happened was they built it and people came. They built the platform. They realized they didn't have to do the work themselves. As long as they provided the platform, people would come and build apps for it. And now you see that there's an app for that has become part of a ubiquitous part of our common language today. My worry, I think, is that pretty soon TED won't have speakers and audiences. You'll just call it up on your iPhone, and there'll be an app of virtual people talking to you about spreading ideas worth spreading. Let's hope that doesn't happen. The final prerequisite, I think, for innovation is failure. And that might seem funny, but it's absolutely true. You have to be able to have the freedom to fail. In fact, you have to fail in order to have innovation. This is not, again, a new or historic concept or invention of my own. Recognize this guy, Benjamin Franklin. He said, I didn't fail, I just found 100 ways that wouldn't work. The aforementioned Thomas Edison, that is a look of abject failure if I've ever seen one. He said, I didn't fail, I just found 10,000 ways that wouldn't work. So failure is something that's necessary in order to have true innovation. We celebrate failure today. I mean, we have Fail Whale, we have Fail Blog, we've got all sorts of failures on the internet, some of them kind of funny, not all of them good, but we celebrate that sort of thing. And look what failure produces. You have Mishkin Ingawala. He's a TED Fellow, and he invented a test for anemia for poor pregnant women in India that didn't involve the pricking of the skin in order to draw blood. So he built this thing, and he tried it out, and it didn't work. And he built it again, and tried it out, and it didn't work. And he built it 32 more times until he got it right. And now that's something that is saving lives. I think people mentioned Dr. Brené Brown earlier this morning, who writes about shame and vulnerability. She even talks about TED, though, and she says TED is like a celebration of failure, because everybody who comes up here on this stage has failed at one time or another. Absolutely true. And you know what? Everybody's okay with that. Everybody should be okay with that, because that's where true innovation lives. I want to leave you with a quote, also one of Dr. Brown's favorites, from Teddy Roosevelt, the guy who said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." And it goes something like this. It's not the critic who gets the credit. It's not the critic who sees the great man stumble or talks about the doer of deeds and how he could have done them better. The true credit goes to the man or woman, you've got to forgive him, it was more than 100 years ago, who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by sweat and dirt and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again and again, who at best knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. That's all I've got for you today. I'm going to take my clothes now and go. Thank you.